The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Fantasy. The brand new offer for new customers. Play just $5, $50 in bonus funds when you use the promo code SGPN. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is still Saturday night, August 23rd, around 10 p.m. Eastern. Time for the second episode for the U.S. Open preview. Did the men's episode a second ago. Time to get into the women's preview. So we're going to get into the actual quarters, the outrights, all that jazz. You get the drill. Anyway, before we get into any of the actual breakdown of the U.S. Open, have to recap what happened over the last few days for the women's side. Once again, we have no lock and dog picks to recap because we recapped the Winston-Salem stuff in the last episode. And of course, we have lock and dog picks pending for the U.S. Open round one on the men's side. So getting into what happened on the women's side, we did have an event that went final. There's one event going on right now, which we will not talk about. But either way, there is an event that happened, and it was in Cleveland, and ended up seeing a pretty nice, I'd say surprising winner, as you ended up seeing, once again, a pretty interesting tournament. I'd say that the final was a dud, but either way, it ended up resulting in a qualifier winning in the event, which is something that is, I'd say, unusual. Even more unusual, it was somebody who did not drop a single set. So 7 matches, and she did not drop a single set through qualifying. Very impressive by Cirstea, so good for her, the Romanian, who ended up getting the job done there in Cleveland, but a very underwhelming final as she ended up facing off against Lee, and she absolutely kicked her ass. 6-2, 6-4. Really never a sweat at all. She actually could have won 6-3, had 3 match points there in the 3-5 return game, but Lee never stood a chance, and Cirstea got the job done. Impressive anyway, anytime you win through qualifying, but not dropping a set in 7 matches is really impressive. Nice job by her as she ended up winning the title. Now, of course, there is another tournament going on, which we cannot talk about because Monterrey is still happening, as Schneider's taking on Alexandrova in the semis. We're obviously not going to talk about it because the tournament didn't go final, so whatever, it is what it is. But there was a surprising winner for the WTA this past week. I don't know what the price was, so I can't tell you what it actually would have paid out, but I imagine it was really, really nice. I imagine that it was a hell of a pet if you ended up taking it, but either way, a point is nice job by her. Now, there was some other stuff I want to talk about for the U.S. Open. Before we get into that, though, a reminder, that you can also support the show by liking and subscribing on YouTube. And a reminder, you can also leave a rating and review for the podcast on Spotify and Apple. This podcast available in video format or audio format. Check out YouTube, obviously. Even the SGPN Twitter account does actually simulcast the live streams, but I do the editing, and you can also find it audio only on Spotify and Apple. So when you check it out, either way, don't forget to leave some feedback. Don't forget to leave a rating and a review on Spotify and Apple. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, a reminder, check out the merch store on the SGPN website. We have a lot of great tennis merch. We have sweatshirts, we have t-shirts, we have mugs, different colors. Very comfortable. Check out all that stuff on the merch store. Now, I want to talk about something for the U.S. Open that I did not talk about in the last episode, which was recapping what happened for the mixed doubles, actually, as Irani and Vavasori defended their mixed doubles title, and it was a pretty interesting format. The U.S. Open tried to boost the ratings, so they got a bunch of great singles players in the field. They had, for example, Ruud and Swiatek who joined together. You ended up seeing Alcaraz and Raducanu play together. You ended up seeing a bunch of solid singles players play together in doubles. Most of them had no experience at all, and they wanted to kind of turn to a spectacle. Now, this does result in a concern with Siniakova. I'll mention that in a second. But the point is, as a shocking twist, the only experienced doubles team won a doubles title. So congratulations to Irani Vavasori for winning their second straight U.S. Open title. Now, that does open up a question. Does it ruin the integrity of a Grand Slam title if you completely reinvent the format and get a bunch of singles players with no experience to face off against a doubles team with a ton of experience? Because you could argue that Irani and Vavasori are the number one doubles team in the world, and they got to face off against a bunch of people who were making it up on the fly. And as a result, Irani and Vavasori coasted to the final. They didn't drop a set until the second set of the final, which was an absolute collapse by Vavasori. But Vavasori ended up responding as they got the job done in the third set. Super breaker. But still, I thought it was fun. It was on TV. I get the point is you want to boost ratings and all that, but I feel bad for the doubles players that actually wanted to play mixed doubles. I understand that you're trying to make it more fun for the general public, a lot of doubles players don't really make that much money because they're not good at singles. I know some people can do both. I understand that. But most doubles players need to play doubles and win to actually get paid because they can't actually play singles. So you're taking out a lot of the, I'd say the competition of the actual mixed doubles field by just throwing in a bunch of singles players who aren't, I'd say, that familiar with the actual doubles game, and they're not exactly experts in executing basic doubles game plans, etc. So I thought it was definitely a mixed bag of emotions for me when it came down to breaking down my thoughts for this event. It was fun. I watched it. I bet Irani Vavasori every single match, so I made money on it. But the point is, looking at Shelton and Towson play together instead of an actual doubles team, I thought was kind of straightforward. I'll put it that way. I thought that it was going to be a pretty easy road for Irani and Vavasori. It was until the second set happened against Ruud and Swiatek, who played well together, by the way. Good for them. But I thought that the actual event itself became a bit too gimmicky. I think you needed more actual mixed doubles teams in there. I'm fine if you want to throw in a couple of singles guys, but you need more than one doubles ringer team to make it actually interesting. But that takes me into what happened for Siniakova, who's arguably the number one doubles player in the world, because she was supposed to play with Sinner in this event as Alcaraz with Raducanu. You're trying to get all the elite singles players in the field. Now, Sinner, of course, had an illness or food poisoning, whatever, ended up dropping out in Cincinnati in the final and said, you know what, I can't make it. So Sinner dropped out. Makes sense. He wants to win the singles, of course. So Siniakova figured, okay, fine. I'm still an elite doubles player. I'll find somebody else. I still got time. The event doesn't start for another day or two. So I'll pick somebody else, a last-second replacement, and I'll play in the event. And the U.S. Open told her, better luck next year. And they basically just threw her out of the entire tournament. So Siniakova wanted to play in the event. Sinner dropped out, not her fault. And instead of finding a replacement, they said, you know what, Siniakova, we're good. We're going to take Danielle Collins and Christian Harrison as our final replacement team. I feel bad for Siniakova. That was butchered, the way they handled the situation. Even if you think that it is more fun when you have singles players involved, taking arguably the number one doubles player in the world and telling her you can't participate because your partner dropped out is ridiculous. So yes, I understand there was supposed to be another doubles team in the field. Siniakova's elite at doubles, Sinner's not, so we would have seen if they could have challenged Irani and Vavasori. The point is, though, Siniakova got screwed. I mean, she's trying to win another doubles title because she has so many in her career, and the U.S. Open told her no. They told her, look, Sinner's not there, we don't want you, which is ridiculous to me. So I feel bad for Siniakova, wanted to mention it, but that was, in my opinion, poorly handled by the U.S. Open. There's another issue that happened in the U.S. Open for the men's side. They didn't give Wawrinka a wild card. So Wawrinka's just not in the field, former champion. So that was another piece of, I'd say, news that was going around for people hating on how the U.S. Open handled that situation by not giving Wawrinka an actual spot in the field. But the Siniakova one I thought was nonsense. Arguably the number one player in the world for doubles was told, don't come because your partner dropped out, because we want to see Sinner and not you. Basically what happened. So I feel bad for Siniakova. A bunch of nonsense, but either way, congrats to Irani and Vavasori. Not their fault. I thought the format was interesting. It was pretty straightforward in terms of who would win. The best doubles team in the world ended up winning. But there should be multiple actual doubles teams in the field next time. If you want to throw in a couple singles teams, great. But there's got to be more than one team that's actually top 5 in mixed doubles. Throw in another one, throw in maybe 3 actual doubles teams against the singles guys and girls, and we'll see what happens. But I thought the event was fun. The Siniakova thing was stupid, and I thought that it was straightforward and expected that Irani and Vavasori, the actual doubles team, won the entire thing. Anyway, before we get into any of the actual quarter picks for the Women's U.S. Open, a reminder brought to you by our sponsor, or actually a reminder that we are doing a nice giveaway for Circa, because they are still giving away a $1,000 Circa into a future bet with the phrase that pays. Submit your phrase now at sportsgamblers.com/phrase to once again get in on the free giveaway for chance to win a $1,000 free NFL Circa future bet. Anyway, we're brought to you by MyBookie.ag, because you can use them to bet on tennis, use them to bet on baseball, WNBA, golf, and of course football futures. You can also use MyBookie in ton of locations. Use crypto for deposit payouts. When you sign up for a new account, use the promo code SGPN for 50% deposit match up to 1K. Certain conditions apply. MyBookie promo code SGPN. We're also brought by Rhythm, because they have a lot of great models you can build, and they also have models that are already made for you if you want to check them out. For different sports, they have college football, they have baseball, of course, they ended up having a lot of options for WNBA, so check that out as well. College football, you name it. Point is, you can also use them for NFL props. They're very good last year for Tyreek Hill, for example, 13-5 last year on his props, 31% ROI. But check out the MLB, check out the golf, check out the WNBA, and of course the college football, in addition to the NFL. And a reminder, you can also build your model starting today with your Week 1 NFL predictions. But check out the platform for free for a week by using the show link. Use the link sportsgamble.com to get your 7-day free trial. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the brief recap of the mixed doubles U.S. Open, and time to move on into the actual preview of the women's U.S. Open. So, for the recent winners, you've seen different faces. In fact, you've seen different finalists pretty much every time. So, for the outcome, Sabalenka did beat Pegula last year. Goff beat Sabalenka the year prior. Swiatek beat Jabeur the year before that. And, of course, Raducanu ended up beating Fernandez in the flukiest Grand Slam final matchup of all time. Now, like the men's, not as extreme, I said in the men's episode that nobody's gone back-to-back here since the mid to late 2000s. It's been a bit later than that, but it's still been over 10 years. Serena is the last person to win back-to-back U.S. Open titles, 2013 and 2014. So when you see somebody win, usually you see a different face. Now, Sabalenka did make it to the final back-to-back years, but the fact is you might see somebody besides Sabalenka win. We'll see. But historically speaking, men's and women's, the recent winner, the most recent winner, tends to not defend their title. So keep that in mind. Now, for the first quarter, this is the Sabalenka quarter. So for the odds here, I'm going to use DraftKings again for convenience. Shopped around, though. Did find the best price available. So I'm going to mention better prices if I found them. Sabalenka, minus 120. You have Rybakina at 3-1. By the way, a really fun matchup, potentially, in the quarters. They faced off in Cincinnati, and Rybakina kicked their ass. So you might end up seeing a fun matchup there. Raducanu is here at 650. Paolini is at 10-1. By the way, separate note, Raducanu having shorter odds than Paolini after she made the final in Cincinnati is insane. So keep that in mind. But 650 Raducanu, pretty standard overpricing for her. We're not going to take her. But the fact that Paolini is roughly $4, I'd say, better of a deal than Raducanu is insane after she made the final in Cincinnati. Anyway, you have Tauson at 10-1, who ended up beating Swiatek in Cincinnati. You have Vondrousova at 15-1. Layla at plus 2,000, who's been quite bad since winning in D.C., but still former finalist. You have Mertens at 22-1. You have Ela at 28-1. Kudermetova 30-1, and you kind of get the point. So, am I going with any chalk here? Probably. I mean, you're looking at what I think is a pretty weak quarter besides the top options. I'm not taking Raducanu, obviously. So I'm going with Sabalenka because I do think her draw is pretty weak. She should beat Fernandez. Fernandez, we know, can lose to anybody. She could beat anybody, but she could also lose to anybody. She ended up beating, of course, Rybakina in that collapse that she had in DC. But the point is, you're looking at Sabalenka, who has a pretty easy path in the immediate rounds. And the fact is, I think she'll be able to get through it. Sabalenka might choke at some point, but it tends to be in the final. So I do think she'll get to the semis here. So give me Sabalenka as my first choice. I found a plus 114. So once again, it was minus 120 on DraftKings. I found plus money. I'll take it. I like the price there at plus 114. But even though I think she's a serious choker, I got to take her for the actual form, and I got to take her for her skill set on hard court. I got to go with Rybakina. I found a rogue price. It was 3-1 on DraftKings. I believe it was FanDuel that at 470. 470 is massive. Like, that's an insane price for Raducanu. I understand that you're looking at somebody who is known for choking, and when I made the WTA clown rankings, you better believe I had Rybakina in the top 3. But the point is, I do think her path is pretty favorable, and I do think that she should be able to find a respectable run here. She might lose in the quarters, that's fine, but she has a wild card in the first round, then potentially Bronzetti in the second round, You're looking at Kudermetova maybe in the third. Could be Raducanu. I would take Rybakina over Raducanu, to be clear, which is why the odds, I think, are insane on Paolini, because Raducanu would have to face off against Rybakina in the third round, then Paolini in the fourth, and then Sabalenka in the quarters, which is just an insane price on Raducanu. So that's why I wanted to mention that specifically. Don't take Raducanu. Those odds are absolutely terrible. Now, I do think Raducanu is a player who you could argue maybe has to win another title besides the U.S. Open before I actually trust her again. Paolini, I think, has some value potentially at 10-1. Do I think she'd beat Sabalenka? Probably not. But you could argue that if Raducanu ends up beating Rybakina in an upset, then maybe Paolini could beat her. That's a possibility too. I don't hate it. Do I think she'd win against Sabalenka? Probably no. So I see chalk here personally. I think you're looking at a spot where Towson, I think, is interesting, but I still think Sabalenka would beat her. I know she ended up beating Swiatek in Canada. Good for her. Like, shout out to Towson for doing that. I still think I'm going chalk here. At the end of the day, I would go Sabalenka if I had to pick one person. But if you're asking me who I think has the best chance of beating Sabalenka, it's the person who just beat her in Rybakina. So even if Rybakina loses, that's kind of fine, because I just think that Sabalenka would beat everyone else anyway. So, Mans, I think you mean the quarters, by the way, for the potential Paolini and Sabalenka match. That would be the quarters. But the point is, I don't see Sabalenka losing anybody besides Rybakina. So give me Rybakina as the fail-safe. But I think that Sabalenka probably just gets through and makes it into the semis. Moving on to the second matchup here. Or second quarter, I mean. This is the more open one. This is going to be the Andreeva quarter. Now, Andreeva hasn't played much since Wimbledon. She's plus 220. You have Pegula at around 3-1. You have Mumboko at 4-1 off of the title there in Canada. Crazy run by her to win Montreal, but 201,000 title, and she's really, really good. Navarro is at 9-1. You have Samsonova at 10-1. Bencic is at 10-1. You have Ostapenko at 16-1. Krejcikova 16-1. Azarenka at 16-1. Yastremska at plus 2,000. You get the point. So, am I going chalk here with Andreeva? No. I went chalk with Sabalenka's quarter, taking her and Rybakina. I will go a bit more creative here. I am skipping Andreeva entirely. I think that even though she had a good hardcourt season earlier in the year, she has not played many hardcourt matches recently, and I don't think her draw is that favorable. So based on that, I'll pass. I think I was hoping for a better price. But Andreeva, to mention the outcomes here, she lost in Wimbledon to Bencic. Then she showed up for Montreal. She had a walkover against Andreescu because she rolled the ankle, couldn't play. Played against Kessler, and she lost in straight sets. That's it. That's the only match she's played since Wimbledon. She played against Kessler and lost in straight sets. So I can't take Andreeva. She just hasn't played enough, and I think there's no value on her. Not to mention the fact she's trying to get better with the actual serve. Not a lot of firepower, and I do think she can run into anybody and lose if somebody can hit the ball past her. But Andreeva, I think, is too cheap for this actual quarter. I need more sample. And the fact is, she hasn't played a hardcourt match, a real one, in a while. Losing to Kessler in straight sets doesn't really count for, in my opinion, that much. So I'm going to skip her in this one. I see Van mentioning that Rybakina is having some off-the-court stuff. Doesn't surprise me, because I remember I talked about that earlier in the year. But she did beat, once again, Sabalenka in Cincinnati. So I understand why you might want to fade her. I get it. I would still take Sabalenka to win the quarter, but I do think that Rybakina has the upside that nobody else has in this quarter of beating Sabalenka. So that's kind of where I'm at. I understand if you want to skip her based on the off-the-court stuff. She ended up beating Sabalenka recently, even with that stuff happening. So that's kind of my argument, my counter-argument for you. But Van, I understand. If you want to skip Rybakina, that's fine. I get it. There are a lot of off-the-court stuff issues going on with her. Anyway, a point is for the second quarter, since I am skipping Andreeva, I'm going to open the door a little bit. Now, Pegula made the final last year. She has not been good lately. I'm aware of it. But 5-1 is a really generous price. She's 3-1 on DraftKings. I found 5-1. I'm trying to remember which book it was. I want to say it was Caesars that had 5-1 on Pegula. But the point is, Pegula at 5-1 is too good to pass up on. The draw is pretty favorable, and I do think even though she has been pretty underwhelming for the last couple of months, I do think you're looking at a spot where she should make a deep run. So she has a matchup against Sharif in the first round, then potentially Blinkova in the second round. Maybe you're looking at Yastremska in the third round. And then fourth round maybe is Bencic or Samsonova. Really a favorable draw for Pegula. I get that if you don't want to trust her, that's fine. I know that she's defending finalist, but still, it's mainly the draw for me. I think the draw is weak, and 5-1 is a good price for a player who we know upside-wise can make it out of this weak quarter. I'll take her at 5-1. But, of course, I mentioned her a second ago, I'm not going to skip her. She won a 1,000 title, and she was able to beat a bunch of solid players in the process. She ended up beating Rybakina. She beat Goff. She beat Osaka in the final. Give me Mboko as my other choice here at 550. 550 is a great price. I can't turn that down. I saw that DraftKings at 4-1. I found a 550. I'll take her. She has won everybody over as far as I'm concerned. The main reason why I like her is not even the one Cinderella run in her home country. It's really her mental toughness. She was down a set constantly in the event and just found a way to battle. The Rybakina match was a phenomenal comeback by her. The Osaka one was good too. The point is, Mboko just does not quit, and I do like the fact that in what we know can be unpredictable for women's tennis tournaments, Mboko can find ways to survive when she does not play her best tennis. So I like the path for her. I like the quarter for her. I think it's weak, and I do think that her style of play can frustrate a ton of either high-end or low-end players. So I'll take Pegula at 5-1, but I am going to go with Mboko as my favorite play in this quarter at 550. Yes, I know Manzi, Pegula's in bad form, but Van's kind of agreeing with me here. 5-1 is just a bad price. I kind of have to take it on principle. She should be around 3-1, 350 with this week of a quarter. 5-1 I'll take on principle. My favorite play, though, is Mboko at 550. That's a great price for a player who's really, really good. And the scary part for the rest of the field, the good part for us, nobody knows what the sky is for the limit because she just came out of nowhere, basically, and exploded onto the scene. She won a 1,000 title, which nobody thought she'd win, and now she's kind of playing with house money. Because can she win a U.S. Open? Maybe. We're going to find out, but I like 550 in a weak quarter for a player that we know can handle the environment and can handle top-tier competition. So I like the price here at 550. I'll go with her as my second choice for the second quarter. Moving on to the third quarter. This is the Goff quarter. Now, Goff made some news over the last week or so by hiring somebody to help her with her serve. Thank God. If I had to watch her double fault 20-plus times again on Tennis Channel, I was going to lose my mind. But the fact is, Goff made some changes that she needed to make. Will it work? I don't know. But you know what? The effort is there. I've been calling for her to fix her serve for years. We all have. She won 2 Grand Slam titles, including a French Open title this year, despite not actually knowing how to serve. So based on that, I like what Goff's trying to do. Will this work immediately? I'm not sure. Then again, she won the U.S. Open after having Gilbert as her coach for about a month. So she has made a coaching change before and immediately got results in the U.S. Open from it. Not exactly the same, but the fact is Goff has a very solid all-around game. The forehand does take a lot of time to load up on, which is why she can lose to anybody if they take away her timing. But if she can fix the serve, she's very, very dangerous, and that's the main flaw in her game right now. And she already has a U.S. Open title. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, Goff here is the favorite, obviously, at around plus 150. Osaka is at 3-1. Now, look, I know Osaka made the final in Montreal, where she basically quit midway through the match because she didn't want to be there. Now, I mentioned this before. I'll say it again. If you're taking Osaka to actually make deep runs in Grand Slams, there are so many better uses for your money. Osaka, we know, has won many Grand Slams before, years ago. The problem is, one, she's mentally fragile, which is well documented, and we saw it against Mboko in the final. Once she kind of fell apart midway through that second set, she fully checked out. I mean, she wanted nothing to do with the actual match. She was basically mentally in the locker room already, and then she had the post-match speech and all, and look, the point is Osaka, I don't trust her mentally to keep her composure for an entire event. But she won the Australian Open title in 2021, her 4th Grand Slam title. Since then, she has never made the 4th round of a Grand Slam. She has not made the fourth round since winning the Australian Open title back in 2021. She skipped one full year in 2023, but to go through the details here, 2021, second round French Open, third round U.S. Open, third round Aussie Open, first round French Open, first round U.S. Open. Skipped 2023. 2024, first round Aussie, second round French, second round Wimbledon, second round U.S. Open. This year, third round Australian Open, first round French, and third round Wimbledon. So Osaka, once again, I mentioned Raducanu being a very cheap price, an insanely cheap price. Osaka being the second favorite to win the quarter despite not making a fourth round since 2021 is an insanely idiotic price. Even if she makes it that far, you can't bet that price. That's just an abysmal number. So I can't take Osaka on principle. If she was around like 10-1, maybe I'd consider it. But 3-1, second favorite in the quarter, absolutely not. No chance I take her at that number. So you have her 3-1, Keys at 320, who, as a reminder, won the Australian Open, which I think most people forgot. You have Mukova at 10-1, who has the honor of retiring Venus Williams in the first round. You have Noskova at 14-1. You have Kostyuk at 16-1. Kasatkina, 16-1. You have pretty much basically it. Nothing else to really add there. I think one of the favorites will win. If it opened up, it wouldn't totally shock me, but I'm not picking Osaka. I'm not picking Noskova. I'll go for mostly chalk here as well. I'll go with Goff. I found a great price on FanDuel, I believe. FanDuel had her to win the quarter at plus 260. DraftKings at 150. Most books had like 160, 170. And FanDuel's just hanging 260. Sure, I'll take 260. Look, I'm not saying that she fixed her serve yet, but she already made it to the final before. She won the final before without knowing how to serve. If she looks even 10% better on the serve, she should win this quarter. So give me Keys at 260 as my first choice. Now, Keys is the interesting one. To mention the path, though, for Goff, just to be clear, has a pretty favorable draw, has potentially Vekic in the second round, who I know can be dangerous at times, but I do think that Goff would beat her. Has Frech in her immediate section, same half as Kasatkina. Doesn't scare me that much. Osaka might have to face off against Goff in what could be the round of 16. I would pick Goff on that one. So, once again, another reason why I'm not picking Osaka for the matchup. I said 3-1 on Osaka. I found 260 on Goff. Like, sure, I'll take the 40 cents. I'll sacrifice it for the better player in this event. But point is, I think the draw is not bad for Goff. I'll take her. Now, Keys is the weird one, because Keys, we know, is always going to be streaky. No matter how many times she is looking promising, things can blow up in her face. Now, it did not in the Australian Open, and she won a title. But we have seen since then, classic Keys, she'll go for broke. She either makes her shots or it's a bunch of unforced errors and loses. Now, the path's actually pretty favorable for her. Has Zarazua in the first round, probably Perry in the second round, because I think that Kvitova is probably going to lose as she's about to retire. You have Kostyuk, who I think should lose to Keys as well. Same half as Mukova. Mukova, we question the health, but I think Mukova is still a really good player when she is healthy. I'll go with it. Give me Keys at plus 370. I think there's value on the draw, and the fact is she has made deep runs here before. She should have beaten Sabalenka. She fell apart, but she could have made a final here. So I'll go with Keys to make a respectable run here at 370. But I did throw in a long shot for this quarter. Now, I mentioned the odds before. I said Mukova was 10-1. Bet Rivers, which if it's available in your state, then that's a very good deal for you. If it's not, apologies. Mukova's at plus 2,000 on Bet Rivers. I got 2 times the odds on one book than the other. Sure, I'll take Mukova. It's around 11-1 on most spots, but plus 2,000 is fundamentally wrong for a player that's had very good runs here in the past. Mukova, we know when she's healthy, can be dangerous, and the fact is, no offense to Venus, she has a bye in the first round. I mean, she's going to kill Venus. So the point is, we're looking at what is a pretty easy path here, at least for the first round, and go from there. But she made the semis here each of the last 2 years, made the semis in 24 and 23. So the fact is, she knows how to make deep runs. The issue is durability. I like her as a player, though. I think we'd all agree when healthy, she has top 10 upside. And I like plus 2,000 for a player with that much of a ceiling on her. So give me plus 2,000 for the actual quarter here. I would not take it at 10-1. But plus 2,000 That's just worth it for me. I'll go for the long shot there at plus 2,000. Moving on to the final quarter. It says the Iga quarter. So for this one, of course, she's a minus favorite, about minus 165. You're looking at Anisimova at around 5-1. Svitolina is around 850. Collins is 14-1 in what could be her final event. I don't remember if she said she was going to play any after the U.S. Open, but this will be her final U.S. Open. She's going to retire at the end of the year. You have Alexandrova at 16-1. Schneider at 16-1 is playing right now. Fatigue might be an issue. I like Schneider. Not a great spot with the marathon right now in Monterrey, then a final after, and then she has to go to the U.S. Open. Not a great spot for her. Kalinskaya at around 18-1. Basically it. If you want to go for the head cases, you can go for Sakari at plus 2,000 and Adad Maya at around 40-1. So, am I picking anybody besides Swiatek? No, I am not. That's basically it. I will go with Swiatek at around 165. I did not find a better price, but she's been so good lately. I mean, I know that she lost to Towson in Canada, but she responded and won Cincinnati. She beat Paolini in the final in straight sets. She won Wimbledon. She won double bagel in the final. I can't pick Anisimova to beat her when mentally she might be completely overwhelmed and intimidated. Imagine you facing off against somebody in a Grand Slam when the last time you faced off against them on your biggest match of your career, you didn't win a game. You lost 6-0, 6-0 in a final. I'm not going to pick you to beat Swiatek on hard court. It's not going to happen. I get the crowd would support Anisimova, but I can't really pick anybody else besides Swiatek. I don't want to put her in the same category as Alcaraz and Sinner, because I know that men's tennis has, I'd say, fewer upsets for the elite of the elite compared to women's. But in reality, I do think you're looking at a spot where I just think Swiatek should be a bigger favorite. Assuming she's not exhausted after winning Cincinnati and playing the mixed doubles into the final of that one, I think 165 is pretty cheap for this pretty weak quarter. I'll take her as my only choice for the fourth quarter. Moving on to the actual outrights to win the event for the U.S. Open. So reading off the odds for this one. Of course, you have the favorite being, you could kind of shop around, you could find different numbers, but Swiatek's the favorite in most spots at 240. Saw some co-favorites, though, with her and Sabalenka. Sabalenka, though, is 285. Goff's at 7-1. Andreeva is at 11-1. Rybakina is 12-1. You have Osaka at around 18-1. Mboko is 20-1. Keys at 20-1. Anisimova is 25-1. Raducanu, 25-1. Pegula is 30-1. Towson is 50-1. Paolini is 50-1. Svitolina is 60-1. You get the point. So starting off with the long shots, I'm not picking Pegula. I'm picking her at 5-1 to win the quarter because I like the price. I don't think she'll win the title, so I'm not going to take her there. The long shot, if you had to pick one, would be Paolini at 50-1. But do I think she would actually be able, without having a great serve, to beat the elite of the elite? Probably not. So you'd need Paolini to face off against a Cinderella, basically, in the final. I don't see that happening, personally. So if you want to go for the long shot, that's the one to go with based on form. Towson's at 50-1. Same immediate section, though, as Sabalenka. Not a good enough draw for me there. So Paolini is the option, I guess, for a long shot. I will not take her, but if you wanted one, that, I think, is one of your best options to go with. Now, for the favorites, of course I'm taking Iga. Duh, I kind of have to. She's won Cincinnati. She won Wimbledon after being a mess for about a couple months at least. She has found her form and then some. I'd say, issues with her serve can still be there, but a lot of women have a hard time serving on tour. Swiatek, though, has found her rhythm. She's found a certain amount of aggression that she seemed to be lacking in the past, and it feels like she's starting to fully get back into a more aggressive form, which makes her very dangerous to beat. Right now, she is number one in the world in my eyes. Good enough for me. Give me Swiatek at plus 260. Now, as the hot take here, I will skip Sabalenka. I'm not going to take her. I said before that nobody has repeated here at the U.S. Open for the women since Serena did it back in the mid-2010s. So I do think that it's a cheap price on Sabalenka. I think that even though she is, of course, a very solid player, and even though she has won a couple Grand Slams before, she's had a couple of, I'd say, I don't know if choking is the right word, but she's lost a couple matches that she probably should have won. The Goff French Open match was disgusting, as she had a bunch of unforced errors. She lost to Keys, which nobody thought would happen. She actually fumbles away a couple of matches that you think she should win, and I don't really trust her at that price at around 280. I trust Swiatek a lot more than once again Sabalenka, and she's in the same quarter as Rybakina, who just beat her in straight sets. At least Swiatek has pretty much a cruise into the semis, in my opinion. So she has an easier path at 20 cents cheaper. I'll take it. But Sabalenka in the same section as Rybakina, and with her issues recently in finals or in big matches, I'm going to pass. We saw her lose to Anisimova in the semis in Wimbledon, which nobody saw coming. I'm not interested at that number. I need a bigger price than Sabalenka. I'll pass on her there. Now, I will not take Rybakina. I recognize the points that were made before by Van. I will pick her to win the quarter. I will not pick her to win the event. I don't trust her headspace and her mental toughness to actually win another Grand Slam title right now. But I think Rybakina can win the quarter. That's basically it. I will group her in the Pegula type of category. Quarter winner, not tournament winner. That's where I'm at for the two of them. But I did find a rogue number on Goff. FanDuel's been disrespectful to her. Mentioned the quarter odds before. She's 12-1 on FanDuel to win. She's 7-1 on DraftKings. 12-1's a great price, in my opinion. Goff, we know, has made some good runs here before. She won a title here before, and now she's trying to fix the serve. Will it work immediately? I don't know. But the fact is, Goff has won this event before with a new coaching change, and she's been making consistent runs here in the past. So she made the quarterfinals 2022, won it in 2023, and made the fourth round in 2024. Not amazing besides the title, but still. The fact is, she made the quarters in the Australian Open. She won the French Open. I do think that she can make a good run here. We saw her beat Sabalenka before. We know the crowd will be behind her by a lot. She'll be the main crowd favorite in the tournament. Besides Venus, of course, in her first round matchup against Mukova. But 12-1 is fundamentally, in my opinion, a bad price, and I'll grab it. I think that Goff should be around 7 or 8-1. I think that sounds right. But I do think that 12-1 sounds very, very nice. I'd say too good to pass up on. I'll take that at 12-1 as my second choice for the outright. Now, moving on to the final choice here. I did go for a relative long shot. I'm sure you know who it is, but I am going to go with I'm going to embrace the unknown a bit. I will see how high the ceiling can go. Give me Mboko at 27-1. I think it's a great price. I think that we know that she is definitely capable of being a future top 10 player in the world. She came out of nowhere as a teenager and won one of the biggest events of the entire year. Not Grand Slam related. Yes, the Canadian crowd helped her, but still. The fact is, she proved she can handle top-tier competition. She can handle deficits, and most importantly, I like her game. I think it's important. The fact is she can keep the ball in play. Her serve can be dangerous, but I do think that her mental game is ahead of a lot of people. Even though she's a teenager, she has a certain mental toughness that I'm trying to think of how to compare it. I'll give you an example. I watched Alcaraz, of course, when he was coming up initially. Maybe you remember the matchup. He had a 5-set marathon against Tsitsipas, and he won the final set tiebreak. There was some point in that matchup where you realize that despite being a young phenom, not every elite talent has it between the ears, and it takes some years to actually get them to learn a little bit more of tennis IQ with shot selection, etc. Fonseca is a great example of an elite talent who has not figured it out from an IQ perspective yet. Now, I think Mboku, despite being extremely young and despite being extremely talented, does also have the IQ to pair with the talent, which makes her very dangerous, in my opinion. So with that being the case, I think 27-1 is a good price. I will ride the wave. I'll see how far she can take me. But 27-1, I think is a very good price. For a player who I know can beat Rybakina, she can beat Goff, because she did so already, and she also is able to come back from a set down all the time. I like the mental, I'd say, strength that she has. I like her game in general, and I do think that she will force opponents to beat her instead of beating herself. Good enough for me. Give me the long shot here. Give me Mboko at 27-1 as my long shot for the event. So once again, my outright picks to win the event. The first pick's going to be on Swiatek at 260. Second pick will be on Goff at 12-1. I love the price at 12-1. If you have 7 or 8-1, it's probably a pass, but FanDuel is 12-1. I can't turn that down for a player who just won the French Open and is now addressing the main concern of her game, which is her serve. And give me Mboko at 27-1. So to wrap it up, though, for the hour, it's time to move on into the lock and dog for the first round. Before we get into the lock and dog, remember they're brought to you by our sponsor, which is Circa. They're hosting three of the biggest football contests for the NFL season. It's Circa Million, Circa Survivor, and Circa Grandissimo. Over $20 million guaranteed prize. And a reminder that this past weekend was Circa Contest weekend to hang out with the SGPN crew. But if you ended up missing out on that, that's fine. We still have a nice discount for you. If you want to go to Circa at some point, use the promo code SGP15 to get 15% off your stay at Circa. And a reminder that you can enter the contest from anywhere. You have to sign up in Nevada, but you can play from anywhere with the help of our proxy. Go to footballcontest.com. You can HP to get $50 off your proxy fees. We're also about to fantasy because they're doing this Mania happening all summer long. 15 million prizes, 2 minute first place, no waiver wire, and a reminder there are no trades, and it is a very good way to play fantasy football. There's no waiver wire and no trades, but you can also use Underdog for pick'em entries for tennis. A lot of tennis options for aces, double faults, breaks of serve, you name it. So if you want to fade the Goff serve, you can go for higher double faults on Underdog. That is an option for you if you want to build an entry for it. But a reminder, you want to 500 times your entry, which is not, though, for a new account. Use the new offer that Underdog has. Play just $5, get $50 in bonus funds, and use the promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the outrights for the U.S. Open. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. Now, for the lock, I'm going to go to an obscure matchup. I'm going to go with Zakharova as she takes on Avanesian. And for this one, I'm going to go with the favorite here. Give me Zakharova minus 2.5 games here, minus 130. Now, Zakharova is actually in decent form as she made the semis in Cleveland. Did lose to the eventual champion. So no shame in that, as she was able to make a good run in good form. And I do think that she is worthy of being a favorite. Lines move somewhat heavily on her. I understand why. Now, for her opponent here in Avanesian, she has not really played much recently, as she has lost 6 for the last 7 matches, mostly on clay, but she has not played a hard court match since March. She was supposed to play in Prague, and she dropped out as she had a shoulder issue. So you're looking at Zakharova, who made the semis in a hard court matchup this past week in the build-up to the U.S. Open, which I like. She also lost, so she has extra time to rest before the U.S. Open compared to the people that actually made it to the final, etc. But you're looking at Avanesian, who has not played on hard court in a while. She had a shoulder issue in Prague. That's why she didn't play. Should be healthy now. She was a month ago. But the point is, she's not in good form, losing 6 of 7, and I question her comfortability on hard court after not playing on hard court for about 5 months. So I like the spot here. They also faced off a long time ago on hard court, but it's the only thing we have for head-to-head. Zakharova beat her, and I believe it was 2019 on hard court in straight sets. But then we put 2.5, I think it's a good price. I'm going to fade the player who's taking an injury leave, who's now back. I'll back the person who made a deep run in the tune-up event before the U.S. Open. Give me Zakharova, minus 2.5 games here, minus 130 as my lock. For my dog, I'm going to go to the Ostapenko match against Wang. Give me the over 2.5 sets at plus 140. Ostapenko, we know, is constantly involved in extremely entertaining and I'd say circus matches, and it's been on full display recently. Ostapenko has lost at least one set in 11 of her last 12 matches. Now, Wang has also been involved in a couple marathons, as 4 of her last 5 matches did not end in straight sets. So you're looking at what has been a common theme for both players. They're streaky. They'll good one set, bad the other, and hope it all works out in the third set. Plus 140, though, I like. The head-to-head supports it as well. Faced off 2 times this year, both on hard court. One was actually last year. I think it was in Dubai. But the point is, they faced off 1 time last year on hard court. Both career meetings ended up not ending in straight sets. So the history backs it up in the head-to-head. Ostapenko, though, dropping sets left and right, dropping a set in 11 of her last 12. And Wang has also been involved in marathons. 4 of her last 5 have gone to a third set. I'll go with the over 2.5 sets here. Give me a streaky matchup like the head-to-head suggests, and I think we see it repeat itself again. I think you'll get a marathon. Give me the over 2.5 sets as my dog for the show. So once again, the lock and dog for the first round. The lock's going to be on Zakharova, minus 2.5 games here, and minus 130. For the dog, I'm going to go with Ostapenko and Wang over 2.5 sets at plus 140 to wrap it up for the show. Back once again for the second round of the U.S. Open on the men's side. And until next time, look at the comment section quickly to see if anybody else has something else to say. What else is there to add? So Andrew's saying that Sinner and Swiatek quarter winners are plus 117. I'm not going to stop you. I know you mentioned Alcaraz included with that. That should be fine as far as I'm concerned. I think Sinner's kind of a free leg as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, a point is, we're back once again in a couple days for the U.S. Open second round on the men's side. Find me on Twitter, though, Reichel Radio. Until next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.